Hey everyone, thanks for joining Kings Talk presented by Cap City Crown. This is Tony. Along with me as always, we got John. John, man, it feels real good being a Kings fan right now. 3 game win streak with a chance tonight on national TV to be over 500 early on this season. I think it's our 13th game. They're 6-6 at the moment. So, I mean, it sounds so like a small goal or a goal or other franchises like whatever, but man, the Kings aren't usually above 500 this early on or at any point in the season, and just to have that on national TV, and the Kings are getting a lot of hype right now, and ah it just feels so exciting right now. It's such an exciting time. Six of their last 8. I just feel like I'm like rambling right now, man, but geez, like
No,
great
keep
time.
going.
Dude, I'm just pumped. I'm pumped to be a Kings fan right now. It feels good. It feels like we little bandwagon starting to form. Fox and Sabonis, the Fox and the Ox, Red Velvet, man, Band Aid Monk. Jeez, the Beam, man, that
The
Beam. Ever since the Kings, put out that Beam, man. They just keep lighting it up. It feels like. Let's see if they can, light it up tonight against the Nets, but. I feel like you're better at breaking it down. So, what's going on, man? What's going on in Sacramento?
I mean, what else do you need to know other than the fox and the ox and the beam and the band-aid? Um, you know, these guys have been playing really good basketball, and we were saying it last week. Obviously, they were showing it, and they had just come off that really ridiculous loss. It was the second game against the Warriors, which was last week, and you know, upward trajectory was kind of like the theme of that. It's like regardless, they're losing a game like that, like still, like they probably could have won that game. They definitely should have had a chance to go to overtime. And everything that's just come after that, it's 3 wins that the Kings have just looked absolutely fantastic in. And before we get into that, I do want to touch upon the fact that you said the bandwagon thing. And this team just seems like the perfect candidate to be what I would call bandwagon royalty. Just because they haven't won in a while. Nobody really has a reason to hate this franchise. It's not like they've ever been like, hated by anybody for the most part. They never really, quite frankly, they've never really had a stretch good enough or long enough to be hated. But it just seems like the perfect opportunity. Small market, kind of, and a lot of guys that you can like on this team. And they play the right way. And Mike Brown's doing the right thing. It seems like pulling all the right strings so far as head coach. And it just seems like the perfect candidate. It seems like, I don't know, it's like I'm a Niner fan, but even when the Niners were kind of good under Harbaugh, you could see the Seahawks, like, you're like, oh no. And everybody got on that bandwagon. Because the 49ers, you can't get on their bandwagon. They were good for a long time. They haven't won a Super Bowl in a long time. But they have that kind of like, they're already kind of a prominent franchise. The Seahawks, like, what the hell have they really ever done? Except when Holmgren took them to the Super Bowl. And so it was a perfect opportunity in the way they played. People like their characters. And I feel like I always make references to football when I'm trying to talk about basketball, but it really feels like that was the perfect. There's so many freaking Seahawks fans now. The Seahawks are one of the more popular franchises because of that stretch of time. It's just the way they just came in with a boom. And it just seems like the Kings, and I know they're 6-6 right now, so it's early. There's a lot of time to go. Anything can happen. But it just feels like, man, we kept saying upward trajectory. We kept saying they were playing the right way from the beginning. We kept saying that they came in with connections and good vibrations, as they like to say, good vibes. All these things. And it's been one thing falling on top of another, productively. Everything's kind of kind of like everything that we've been told, everything that we've kind of anticipated is kind of coming true. And again, it's early, but it's like, man, you can't help but to picture what can happen. And man, I don't know. Get ready. It probably won't be annoying because this team hasn't made the playoffs in 16 years. But at least in year one, it won't be annoying. But get ready for bandwagon fans. I mean, it's going to be interesting too, because I know that there are a lot of people, there are a fair amount of people in Sacramento who root for the Warriors, and most of those fans did not root for the Warriors, you know, before about like 8 years ago, you know, or so. So, you know, it's like one of those things where just maybe get ready for it. But that obviously shouldn't ruin the fact that they're playing just masterful basketball.
Yeah, they're playing so good, and they start off 0-4, right? And you're just like watching, it's like same old Kings, man. Like blowing leads and not getting stops late, and it's like 0-4. Like man, like that was not for all the anticipation starting going into the season, not winning in your first 4 games was so disappointing. And Barnes was slow, and Barnes is still kind of off to a slow start. But like even Sabonis was like, yeah, like I wish he could, put up a little better numbers and stay.
Yeah,
On the
guys
floor
were
from fouling.
collapsing on him. The guys would
Yeah,
close in on him, and he was kind of sometimes getting a little flustered at times, and he was missing point blank shots. He was a little out of character those first 4 or 5 games.
yeah, and and then they just respond perfectly. Six of their last 8 cents, and and those 2 losses, two end of the game calls that should have gone the Kings' way. I mean, they should have. The last 2-minute report said like Hero traveled, Herder was fouled. Yeah, I'm not saying the Kings, at the like Herder still had to make 3 free throws to tie it, and you know the Heat game. I don't know. It was still a tight game if you take away that Hero 3. Anything could happen, but like
Well,
those are two
they were denied the opportunity to win.
exactly
They
each
didn't
time.
make them lose. They just denied them the opportunity.
Yes, and that's I don't know. I'll take those for my 2 losses. I mean, I don't want to, but like it's a pretty clear factor to point out. I'm not saying it's the only factor, but anyways, it's just they've responded so great. Fox has been playing great all year, and it's so nice to see Sabonis just really, like I said, it was kind of like a slower start for Sabonis because you expected him to like be doing like 20 and 12 like each night from the get go, but he wasn't. But I mean, shoot, he has as of late on Monday night or Sunday night, he was what 26 and 22. I think over the
Yeah.
last 6 games, he has at least scored 20, grabbed at least 10, and dished out at least 6 assists. So that's the kind of role that guy is on. And as good as Fox is, I mean, Fox is, he's going to get those buckets, and he's a bucket getter right now, man. That mid range is looking pure. Like,
Oh,
take
so
that
pretty.
every time, dude. But that's where Sabonis kind of goes under the radar a little, where Fox is getting these flashy buckets. He's that clutch guy. I think he leads the NBA in clutch scoring right now. But man, when Sabonis is off the floor, that team, the offense definitely struggles a little. So you can't downplay Sabonis, even though he's not. I mean, he's putting up great numbers, but Fox just he gets the flashy points, and so he's the big deal right now. But I mean, he could definitely argue that Sabonis, I don't really want to argue, but who's the best player right now? They were both nominated for conference player of the week, and they lost to Steph, but they're both playing at a high level, and this is the exact type of play you're hoping when these two paired up, and we're just really seeing it all come to fruition right now, and it's beautiful to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a great question. Um, it's hard to say, but I would probably go with Fox because Fox makes such a big difference on both sides of the floor. Sabonis is sometimes it's a problem defensively. I mean, like I think they probably the best thing that they could have done against the Warriors is what they did last night, which was make somebody else beat you. The trap and the box and one that they were using to basically just say, Curry, we're not going to let you shoot. And when he did shoot, he missed it. So, you're either forcing him into a really, really tough shot, even for Steph Curry, or you're going to make somebody else beat you. And they got a lot of layups and everything like that. And they're giving up points in the paint or whatnot. But at the end of the day, you're taking away the thing that makes that team special. But I guess I don't want to go off a tangent there. But my point was that Fox makes such a big difference defensively. And down the stretch in a game, he's just so good. First of all, defensively, it's like, I mean, first of all, everything starts with Fox. Like everything. He's not just the point guard. The offense obviously starts with him, but the defense starts with him. The locker room kind of starts with him in a way. Um, I think we'll probably expand upon that later, but it's just he leads everything, and defensively he makes such a big difference. And obviously Davion Mitchell, when he comes off the bench, it makes he's doing similar things defensively, but it's that two-way element of Fox that is capped off by the fact that he's a closer. He's a stone cold killer. These last 3 games, they won mostly because of him in the last like 3 or 4 minutes of each game. I think he forced an offensive foul. I think he had a few good defensive plays down the stretch against Cleveland while also hitting shots. He absolutely dominated against the Lakers in the fourth quarter. He won them. He sealed up that game for the Kings. And again, he initiated the 12-2 run that the Kings finished on against the Warriors on Sunday night. I think the Warriors had gone on a run of their own, and Draymond had just gotten a layup. And it kind of seemed like oh no, like what's going to happen here? And in like the blink of an eye, Fox is down the floor scoring a layup on Anthony Lamb, who had like no chance of guarding him, no chance of staying in front of him, unless he was going to just all out foul him. And I wrote about it in the recap for the game. It just felt like watching like David Attenborough, like you can like commentate it like it's Planet Earth, like this predator coming out of the bushes. And it was so fitting that it's Fox and Lamb.
Yeah.
And he just all of a sudden he's there, and Fox just has no time to react. All of a sudden, Fox has his teeth in you. He's tearing you up. That's it. It's over before you even know it. And it was just it's kind of like maybe a morbid image there, but it's like it's just like you watch it and you're like, damn, like that's like you kind of like you feel it, like similar to a nature documentary, like the way you revere the hierarchical nature of the natural world or whatnot, all that stuff. It's just like, I don't know, Fox is impressive, and he's top of the food chain is what I'm saying. Yeah, he's just from start to finish, everything he does 2 ways. He's I think he's like the best 2-way player on this team easily. And I didn't even think I would be saying that at the beginning of the year. And he's closing games. Everything runs through Sabonis offensively. Obviously, they're a great offensive team because of Sabonis, but Fox is the better player. And I didn't really think that at the beginning of the season. I thought it's just because Sabonis was the key to everything, he was the best player. But Fox is, like I said, he's doing it on both ends. And I knew that, everybody knew that defense is going to be so big for this team if they want to win games. And everybody knows that if he's going to be an all-star and get the recognition he deserves, they need to win games. And so the middle link there was defense. And obviously Mike Brown's in, and Fox has always had like the potential to be a good defender, but it's just like, man, he's hitting the spot. It's perfect. It's beautiful to watch.
Yeah, dude, Fox looks like such a well-rounded player. I mean, every like thing Fox had to work on going into the season. It's like, the question marks he had, like, Fox was never really that good of a defender in Sac, so far in his career. And he kind of, showed some effort at the end of last season, but, like do it for a full season. And it's, not a full season yet, but he's definitely come out and just like, man, like, the effort goes a long way, and he's definitely showing that. And not just that, it's just like, okay, well, what about his shooting, his free throw shooting, his 3-point shooting? It's like, man, he's shooting 83 from the stripe and 37.5 from deep. Like, he just,
right? How could I forget?
Yeah, exactly. And just insane how like he's just checked off like every box. It's like, all right, like, oh, I'm not like I need to improve on this, like done. Need to improve on this, done. Need to improve on this, done. And it just, oh man, he's just really flourishing this year. He looks like an all-star, really. Like, not just like as a Kings fan all-star. It's like, I don't know, like this dude could be an all-star, and I really hope the Kings can keep winning. February is still several months away, but it's going to depend on that record. And I think Fox is going to have the numbers, man. And like, I shoot, so will Sabonis at this point. But kind of backtracking to what you're saying about how Fox is a killer, man. Like closing out games, leading the league in clutch points. Oh, and that was the other thing. He like his sorry to backtrack. What I was just saying, that something else that was a question mark from him was being a leader, but
Right.
he seemed to be checking that box. But again, going back to closing out games and Fox, just really taking over and um, finishing those games for wins is it's nice to see. And like you said, not only is he scoring the buckets, he's getting stops, and as a team, they're getting stops as well. Which in the first 4 games, they weren't doing that. They weren't getting stops when they needed to secure wins or keep them in the ball game, and it just looked like characteristic Kings, right? Just you're like you need a stop right here, just like no stop in the last 4 minutes. It's just like, man, like get a stop. But over this, these last 6 wins over their last 8 games, like they're getting those stops when they need it, and they're executing on the offensive end as well. And it's just really refreshing to see because as a Kings fan over the last 16 years, like that's just something you don't see. Just like okay, like they're getting a bucket when they need it. Great, the other team. So it's just the defense is looking a lot better, especially in the clutch. And Fox, like you said, dude, is just a stone cold killer. He's just he's just taking over. I'm telling you, that mid range, that little like turnaround that he does with a hand in his face, just like take that shot every time. He just drains it. It's just like I know that's going in. It's like that's how much confidence I have in him. Like mid range, like boom, elbow jumper. He was always good at that elbow jumper, but geez, he's taking it up to the next level. It's like I remember Doug Christie was saying, like, I don't know if this is if I'm reaching here, but he said like Kobe used to like take like practice shooting with like a guy's hand literally in his face so he couldn't see. And I feel like I don't know, Fox is making these tough fadeaway shots just look so easy with the hand in his face. Like yeah, he's got some separation, but he just looks automatic with that shot, and it's insane. And he that's his seems like to be his go-to shot late in games. So he's just been awesome.
Yeah, it's like watching. Everybody says, everybody uses, everybody will say like, it's like watching a ballet. I'm like, I've never seen a ballet, so I'm not gonna say that. But it is like watching something. It's so graceful and beautiful, and everything about his game is so good. And sometimes you just want it to slow down because he plays so damn fast. You want to just watch it in slow motion to really appreciate it. And yeah, he's like right. I mean, and like you're saying, Sabonis could easily be an all-star too if he keeps playing the way he's been playing his last 5, 6, 7 games. But Fox he's just proven he's just the best player on this team. And like you said, he's checked every box up and down. That's just crazy. You can hardly believe it. But I mean, kind of another thing on that kind of leadership note that you were talking about. Because I was just saying everything starts with Fox. And in a way, the culture of the locker room, because obviously I think the culture probably starts more with Mike Brown. But, from the player standpoint, it starts with Fox. And I guess they got their motto, like all in. Fox said it on media day. Plenty of other guys have used the same words. The guys are bought in. You'll hear Sabonis talk about the good vibes, and it's just, it feels like it starts with Fox, and there's a mutual understanding between players and coach right now. Obviously you could see it in the fact that these last 3 games with Cleveland this past Wednesday, the Lakers this past Friday, and the Warriors just the other day, those were 3 of the last teams that Mike Brown had coached. And I think it probably was, I don't know 100% know if it was said for the Laker game or the Cleveland game, but it was definitely a main point of emphasis from the players after the Warriors game that they wanted to win this game for Mike. And that's like, it sounds so stupid. It really sounds kind of sappy as it's coming out of my mouth there, but it's like man, you can't, like, it's early, anything can happen, but it's like, that sounds like that's a great start to something even greater. So, and it goes both ways, like I said, because Mike Brown has tremendous trust in his players, and he's allowed to have tremendous trust in his players, again, because his players have tremendous trust in him. And you could see it late against the Warriors before the Kings ended up going on their run. I think I don't remember who the shooter was, but the Warriors got a 3 in transition, and Mike Brown called a timeout and called Fox out on it. He either wanted Fox to stop the guy with the ball or continue running and close out the guy in the corner, or both, one of which, or if not one, the other, whatever the deal was. He wanted to tell him that, and Mark Jones and Katie Christensen on the broadcast described it. It's like, he's talking demonstratively, but to each other, but it was a one-way street. It was just Mike Brown talking demonstratively to Fox, and Fox is taking it in, listening. And what did he do? He made the adjustments. They ended up going on that 12-2 run to win the game. And Fox just wants to learn. And Mike Brown was asked, I think by Deuce Mason on Saturday, what he's noticed about Fox that maybe surprised him on or off the court. And Mike Brown essentially compared him to Tim Duncan, and that back in Mike Brown's San Antonio days, he remembered Greg Popovich saying that, remind me to thank Tim Duncan. And Mike Brown's like, why are you going to thank your player? Like, what are you talking about? Well, I need to thank him for allowing me to coach him, was what he said. And I guess the way Mike Brown described it, think about it this way. It's like you have this star player in Tim Duncan, and early on in Greg Popovich's career, he's trying to tell Tim Duncan what to do. Many times, a superstar that doesn't want that to be the case says like, hey, I know better. He can get that coach fired, no problem. You see it happen all the time. Franchises always take the side of their star players. And Greg Popovich was allowed to coach him. And what did that do? It not only generated a great career for Greg Popovich, but it generated a dynasty, essentially, a basketball dynasty. And Mike Brown, I guess, had compared Fox to that, to Tim Duncan in that respect, because he's allowed him to coach him. And it was a perfect example. It was crazy because he said that before the Warriors game. And the next game, in a huge moment, he's talking to Fox. And I don't know, that might have come like right before the block that he had in the corner. I don't know, maybe mixing up the timing of everything. But it's just, I guess, Fox is just, he's eager to get better. He's eager to win. And there's just, everything about it, from Brown to the players, Fox and specifically, there's just that you can finally feel like, and it's early, I know, and they haven't made the playoffs or whatever, but it's just like the big thing was the culture change, and it's obviously changed. It's obviously way better than it's ever been. And man, credit to both of them,
Yeah, dude. The culture change is, like you said, everyone bought into it, and that was, always that big question going into the season and the culture. And McNair made it an important topic in the offseason to build that culture and get people to buy in. And as Fox is your leader, on the court, and looks like off the court now. Just letting your coach chew you out in front of everyone, and just being like, okay. And then, getting that block on Curry in the corner, that just shows a lot. He's taking it from off court to on court, and, it's just awesome, really. Like, you don't see that in the past. And like you're saying, like, they wanted to win those games for Mike Brown. At least the Warriors won. Like, I don't remember ever hearing, the Kings going out against the Lakers or Warriors for Luke Walton trying to beat them, So it's just that, it's like that different, connection with the players, and just, I don't know, that different.
Mike Brown has such trust in his players. And I wrote about it. You could see it in training camp, because they came out of, I think, the first preseason game, and Mike Brown said, I think out of a practice, he said, like, I'm really surprised with this team. Like, I've been really surprised with how much they've kind of like taken on, the offense and the principles that he's preaching and whatnot. and executing so well in practice and doing what he wants. And he said that that's like, it's nice because this is a good group of guys. And he's not just talking them up, but he's legitimately saying that he has trust in them. And he might even have said that explicitly, like, I have tremendous trust in him. And he was talking, he might have brought it up, the word trust specifically, when he was kind of talking about how important that is, which, you know, having coached under Greg Popovich, having coached under Steve Kerr, he knew that those teams succeeded not because the coaches took control, but because the coaches did a lot of the work beforehand, throughout, you know, practices, throughout the early part of the season. Like, you see the Warriors look way better on Saturday or on Sunday because Steve Kerr is starting to make tough decisions about his rotation. And, you know more James Wiseman, which, frankly, if you watch the Warriors, it's like, that guy's not good. That's a huge problem for them. But you make these decisions, and then you have to let the players execute. They have to be well coached, disciplined enough to be able to execute. At the end of the day, it's a players' league, and the smartest coaches know that, and the smartest coaches use that to their advantage. And so Mike Brown has tremendous trust in this team. You can see it in the fact that he'll let Sabonis play when he gets in foul trouble. The fact that he's sticking with Keegan Murray, even though he's got off-court issues. I mean, he was talking about that, I think, on Saturday too, saying that, like, the whole organization is making sure that we're here to support him. I'm letting him know, like, just go out there and play. Like, you're not going to lose minutes. Like, don't worry about any of that stuff. He's just, there's a connection that's running throughout the locker room, coaching staff to players. It's insane. For as much as Fox has done, I mean, Mike Brown is just obviously he's put the stake in the ground that started the building this kind of chain link fence of good culture. I don't know why it would be a chain link fence. That doesn't, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
it's
I love
it's,
Mike
it's
Brown.
crazy.
Yeah, no, he just seems awesome. Like, it seemed like they made just an excellent decision hiring that dude, and it's looking like it's paying off so far. So he's just been awesome. I don't really have much more to add than what you've been saying. He's been gassing him up, but he really has done a lot of work so far this season, and
also, I mean, another thing about it, because you remember, like, one of the things that got got Mike Brown in trouble in his first stint with Cleveland when LeBron was there, was that, like, he called out LeBron one time, I think in, like, a film session, and then, like, LeBron, like, talked to him. I may be mixing this up, but I think it was something to this effect. And then, like, Mike Brown stopped, like, calling him out, and just a bunch of players lost respect for him. And that's just kind of, maybe that underlines the importance of being able to coach your star. But it's like, that probably, just as much as watching Greg Popovich and Steve Kerr, that probably totally underlines the fact that you have to be the coach. You have to be the authority at the end of the day. And quite frankly, like I said, to be able to have that trust late in the game, you have to instill them with that stuff anyways. So it's good that the players know it, because the players understand what it takes to win. So it's crazy, because it's just like, we knew that the culture would be better with Mike Brown, but I don't know if I really expected it to be like this immediate. Of course, it would be different because it's a completely different coaching staff and whatnot, and it seemed like a completely different group of players. But it's just like everything's gelling. And maybe we look back a month or two from now and shit goes sour. Maybe something, not necessarily in the long run, but just, maybe it's not as rosy as it is now. But right now, it just seems like they're really on a good track, and they've made crazy progress that I just didn't expect in the culture department, which is really, at the end of the day, what you want.
Yeah, and they don't really have anyone or, like, any players on the team that are known as head cases. If anything, they got rid of Buddy, who was an issue off court. But I mean, other than that, they brought in, and no, I don't know if they brought in good. I mean, they did bring in high quality guys. No one, like, you would expect, like, oh wow, it's a really high quality guy. But Herder's not a guy that you hear about like, off court or Monk or anyone like that. And you drafted really well, and Mitchell and Murray, who are young guys who are eager to learn and they're going to work really hard. So I'm not totally surprised, but it is nice to see it like come together so quickly.
Yeah.
But
I think
like McNair built that. Like he saw this, he like got the recipe, got the ingredients, and it's like turning out really well. So
Yeah. And I think just to kind of kick it back to Mike Brown there, because it's all our credit to McNair, we said that at the beginning of the season, it's just like, this is it seems like a horse that can win a race, but Mike Brown made sure everybody knows their role. And we would probably see instances or signs of someone maybe not taking on their role because they probably wouldn't be here, because it's just, you have to know your role. It seems like for Mike Brown's team to even be on the team, and it seems like everybody's kind of in line. Everybody understands their role. And that goes a long way. It really does. But we're kind of talking about how like it's a players' league, and we talked a lot about Fox. And we kind of touched upon the fact that he could easily be an all-star, and maybe we both agreed on the fact that Fox is the best player on this team. But Domantas Sabonis is. It's kind of crazy how good he's been these last few games. And in particular, just kind of the way because he just looked so sloppy in the beginning of the season. Not for any lack of aggression, but he's kept up being aggressive, and he's just been executing better. It just seems like, and it probably has a lot to do with the flow of the offense and the understanding of the offense for the other four guys around him. But the game just looks a lot easier for him again, and he's looking like himself. And we were alluding to the fact that he could easily be an all-star, obviously, and it's really easy to see why, especially when you make that case of if the Kings can win games, because one of the things about this team is they're one of the best offenses in the league. It's just, that's the way it is, and that is because of Sabonis. It's such a difference maker when he's on the floor. You could totally see it. When the second game against the Warriors this season, when Metu had some good minutes, it was not the same thing in the most recent one. I think he came out in the negative by 1 point. Maybe it was nothing, but you could totally see it. It's the offense is completely different when Sabonis isn't on the floor, and he's not just the center on the team, but he's like the center of the team in a way. Fox is the best player, but it seems like Sabonis is like the kind of the scaffolding or the kind of structure.
Yeah, like the foundation. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like, I agree. I think Fox is the best player, but this team would collapse without Sabonis. I think more so than without Fox, which is interesting. Because just Sabonis, dude, he is the focal point of that offense if Fox doesn't have the ball, right? I mean, he's facilitating. I don't know. It's just so nice to watch a big man like him facilitate the offense, and everything runs through him. And yeah, like you said, he goes off the floor and starts to struggle a little. And he's just so good. He's good in the 2-man game. He's good at passing and directing traffic. So, yeah, they definitely hurt when he's off. And, it just shows how, focal of a point he is on this team, and why you could technically argue he is the best player.
Yeah, it's no easy argument. Yeah,
exactly. Because I think he's more important to everyone else's, success, really. Like, yeah. I don't know, is Herter having this good of a year if it's not Sabonis and Holmes, at the center position?
I'll tell you right now, no, because Herter's been talking about how everything about this offense is just he can trust that the ball is going to come back to him. And he's always talking about how that's because of Sabonis.
Yeah.
And so that absolutely. And just to touch upon the two, I mean, like Herder and him in the 2-man game is just as fun to watch as him and Fox. I almost feel like you see it a little bit more sometimes. Um, but you see Sabonis sometimes with Monk. You see him with, I think you've seen it a couple times with Murray, and it's just like all these connections. It's so crazy, and it keeps defenses off balance, gives them different looks, and there's just so many weapons on this team. And like you said, it's because of Sabonis. He's kind of loading each of these weapons with ammunition, and it's great. You know, it's it's what makes him so special. And I think that is an interesting concept, though, that it's like Fox is the best player, like, but if you take Sabonis away, they collapse far more than they would without Fox. And you know, and that's not to say like they'd be fine without Fox. Like they're obviously, we're talking about how Fox is like closing out games. He's taking things, upon himself to really kind of give his team the edge in the end. So you'd be losing that. So you'd probably still be losing games. But without Sabonis, he's that glue. He just connects everything. He keeps the team competitive. A team without Fox would look a lot like how the team looked after the Sabonis trade last year. It's like, oh, they're competing pretty well, but it's like not quite. Fox puts them over the top. Fox makes them a contender, not just for he makes them a contender for, a potential winning record this season, and definitely a play-in contender. But it's like, it's just Sabonis. It's just, you can never lose sight of him. I feel like I tell you this when we're kind of like leading up to the podcast. It's just like, man, I feel like we should talk about Sabonis, but I just don't know what to say, because you just don't want to get redundant. Because it's like, yeah, he's good.
Yeah, it's true. It's like I said, he's like Fox, because like Fox is that clutch guy. He's leading in clutch scoring right now. He's the one who's going to score those points at the end of games or just throughout the game, and he's going to get buckets when he needs to get a bucket. That's your go-to scorer right there. Where, like I said, Sabonis, he's not as flashy. He's the one facilitating the offense, but not every time the ball runs through him, he's going to get an assist. So he's not going to rack up like 15 assists a game. But so I don't know. It's just kind of like that concept where, you just notice Fox a little more than Sabonis. Sabonis kind of does more of the dirty work. But again, very integral. I don't even want to ask. I'm not even going to debate who's better. They're just both so good. And that's why they were both nominees for Western Conference Player of the Week. And, deservedly. Yeah. They're both really good and both very integral to the success of this team, each in their own way. Really, I mean,
there's a very good chance they could. There's a very good chance they could both be all-stars.
Dude, oh god,
because we said that I think we said that at the beginning of the year too. Because it's like there's a pretty good chance Sabonis can be an all-star. Like Fox, like if Fox is an all-star, like because we were talking, I think, kind of about like maybe it's easier for Sabonis. There's like less competition maybe for Sabonis to be an all-star as opposed to Fox. But Fox has just put himself at the top of the list. So I wouldn't be surprised if they have 2 all-stars. Maybe that's getting greedy. But man, like we said, this team is popping up on a lot of people's radars. And, you definitely, it's early, but you definitely can't rule it out. But kind of off of Sabonis.
Well, sorry, even before.
No, keep going.
No, it's like you say it's still early and stuff, and it's like the Kings every now and then they had like a good start to the season, but kind of like where we said going into the season, it just is different. It feels different. There's actually like they look super good on paper, and these wins in this early start to the season. It's like 6-6 and everything, but it just looks so different than what we've been seeing the last 16 years. And there's, there feels like there's a good chance that they can continue winning games. And not like a very high rate, but like a better rate that they've been the last 16 years and where they actually have a legit shot at making the play-in. That's what it actually feels like, regardless how early it is, it really does look different than years past. And, I'm not saying you should get your hopes up. I hope you are, but I think there's, there's a better chance this year than what we've seen in years years past. I feel like I got redundant right there, but
It's different. I'm different.
but what were you gonna say?
Well, off of Sabonis has been so terrific, and like Fox has been terrific, and I'm talking about how great Fox is on the defensive end. You get maybe a little bit even more of a lift on the defensive end in his backup, and Mitchell's hit a couple of threes here in the last couple of games. He's had kind of his ups and downs offensively. But you also have Monk, who's great at facilitating as a backup. There's a lot of guys that can handle the ball, but a backup to Sabonis has been a little more. It's a little harder to come by. It's been Metu since like Orlando, and he's okay. Been better than I thought. He's really surprised me. Like I really thought
me too.
Like honestly, me too for Metu. I don't know, but he does some things well. He's had some nice energy plays. He had a moment against the Warriors where he just went straight to the rim, dribbled straight to the rim, boom. You gonna give me that?
I told you that he's the energy guy. Remember, that's the one thing Metu can do. He has those energy plays, and those are big off the bench. It gets the crowd into it, gets the bench into it. But sorry,
yeah, no. I mean, absolutely, some alley oops. He's definitely, I think, getting. I think we were talking about. It's weird that Holmes, he doesn't have Halliburton, but how could you not build chemistry on alley oops with other guys on this team? We were just talking about how there's so many ball handlers on this team, so many people that can take it to the rim and facilitate at the rim, and you can't find somebody to match up with. Well, Metu, I think he's gotten a couple from him and Monk have tried to hook up a couple times, and I think they have. I think he might have gotten one from Fox as well. So it's that's great to see. But one of the things that's kind of important is the defensive end, because that seemed to be what Metu was providing at first. When he came in, it kind of all started, I guess, with the first Warriors game when he came in for basically the fourth quarter, and he stayed in the whole game because they played better defense with him. They weren't doing, 2 games later against the Warriors, they're running that trap and that box and one that I guess Mike Brown threw at them before the game started. They did a walkthrough, and they'd never done it before, and they executed it pretty well. But they weren't doing that in game 1. So with Metu out there, they had better switchability. You didn't have so much of the Warriors exploiting a switch where you all of a sudden have Domantas Sabonis guarding Steph Curry. It was a little bit more manageable, I guess, to be able to have Metu out there switching. And that's not to say that Metu's like Bam Adebayo or anything like that, or even Damian Jones. But he gives you a little bit better of an option there. That seemed to be the case at first. But then it's these last couple of games, there's been some defensive moments where it's he got beat by Austin Reeves. And Austin Reeves isn't really an athletically gifted NBA player in any way. So that was kind of troubling. But one of the things that gives you hope with Metu is because he is providing, things on the offensive end. But I think he was getting taken to the rim by somebody against the Warriors. And obviously, like I said, you're not going to expect Metu to stop a guy, lock a guy down. But what ended up happening is you got good help on a rotation that time. So, maybe I don't want to put so much on Metu for the defense. He's definitely not a guy you want out on an island against anybody, but neither is Harrison Barnes or a lot of guys on this team. But, Metu, I guess I'm just trying to have this is a hard way of saying that Metu's been just adequate. Maybe that's kind of too kind. He's just been okay. It's been compared to everything else. I guess it's better,
Dude, yeah, compared to everything else, it's fine. It's fine by me, I guess. I mean, better than Rashawn Holmes, He's just gone now, I guess. He's just
I don't know how Holmes is going to work himself back in the rotation.
Yeah. No, I mean, at least Metu's stepped up to the challenge when Holmes you never really expected Len to be, that guy. on a night-to-night basis just because he's,
Len serves one purpose.
yeah, he's a
And
bruiser.
yeah. And you're never going to use that unless it's certain matchups and at certain points in those matchups.
Yeah. But
yeah,
good
go
for
ahead.
Metu. Yeah, I was just like good for Metu. Like, it's kind of worked in his favor recently where he's had some small ball lineups where he can fit in and play that well, and he's doing the best as he can for Chimezi Metu, right? Like it's he he surprised me so far. Um, it seems like his threes are down a little, which is good because he was jacking those things up. He's still taking them, but last year he was jacking them up every open three he got. He was just like, all right,
Yeah, he almost looks hesitant this year, actually.
which is great. He should be. He's terrible. He's a terrible three-pointer. He can make it. He's like, yeah, no, he's not good. But
he can get hot. He can get hot, but if he's not hot, then stop. Don't take him. I totally see what you're saying.
yeah, so I mean, he's providing minutes that someone's got to step up at that backup five position right now, and he's doing it, and good for him. That's all I can say. Like, thank you, Metu. Like, because screw Rashawn Holmes. I guess at this point, jeez, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a little harsh, but jeez.
Yeah, I'm like, gee, man.
Sorry. Let me take that back. But it's just upsetting. Like, dude, what's going on with you?
We were talking about it. It created a huge hole. Like it was unforeseen.
I just think he's pissed, dude. I that's why it's a little upsetting to me. I think he's pissed. I think he's just like, oh man, I'm on the backup now. Like oh man, I mean, just imagine if Holmes was playing just like at the same energy level he had been over the last 3 seasons. He would be. This team would be a lot better. Like, honestly, they would be really good. Yeah. But now we have, Sabonis doesn't really have that backup now. Like, Holmes was a huge part of why we thought this team had such good depth, right? It was Monk, Mitchell, and Holmes off the bench. Like, wow, that's really good. But it's just like, boom, you take off, Holmes, or you take off Sabonis' backup, and Holmes, who was the starting center for the last 2.5 seasons. It's just frustrating. I'm personally frustrated over it because he could be playing bad, that's one thing, but it's the lack of energy that I saw with him on the floor when he was playing, where it's just like you clearly don't want to be here. It's like you can just tell. So that's where my frustration towards Holmes is coming, and it's like we all love Holmes and Sac, man. Like he was a fan favorite. Everyone loved the dude. And it's like, I don't know. He's still getting paid, So now you're just going to ride the bench? I don't know. Maybe there's more happening, but I just, there's no explanation at this point for me. So,
yeah. We were saying that last week. It's like, it's just going to get it's just speculation at that point. But on the note that maybe he's not happy, we were just talking about Mike Brown emphasizes the know your role. And if you don't really know your role or you're not happy with your role, you're probably not going to be on the team. Well, it's not like you can just release Rashawn Holmes, or not. I mean, I guess you could, but nobody's going to do that.
Yeah, you're not gonna.
But it's like that might be the best guess. But just like I guess to kind of like stay a little positive on Mezzi over here, is that. Like maybe because like you think about it, it's like if anybody's gonna figure out how to make Chimezi Metu effective, like decent on the defensive end, and he's shown flashes of it, it's Mike Brown, because Mike Brown, defensive coordinator effectively of the Warriors last season, was quoted as saying that he doesn't really think you need a rim protector. You can play basically a 5-man defense and protect the rim that way. And I think he thinks Metu can be like, not just in small lineups, but in a lot of lineups, be the 5 in that kind of like team defense situation.
Kind of like Looney, maybe.
It's exactly like Looney. Looney's not a rim protector. He's not. I mean, obviously I think he's probably stronger than Metu, but one of the things that you see from Looney and Draymond Green, how do they protect the paint? How do they have such a good defense last season? their two bigs, effectively, Looney and Draymond, were two of the best communicators on the team defensively. And you see that naturally with big men, centers in particular. You're in the back, so you're always communicating, telling guys what's happening. So it would be interesting to see Metu develop overall, particularly in that communication and in that kind of like awareness and understanding, how everything works together defensively. I guess like Metu is interesting, and it's almost like I feel like we'll get to this in a second, but it's like people want to talk about getting a center, and I don't think that would be a bad idea. Like trying to get someone that maybe has a little bit more Sabonis skill set while still keeping, a guy like Metu and just kind of playing matchups more or less might not be a bad option.
All right, say it.
Yeah, but we'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
But just people have to understand that it's like I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Brown's saying like, look, let's hold off on that for a second. I think we can do something with Chimezie Metu. And we always talk about the fact that he's got tremendous trust in his players. He has extremely like embedded trust. It just seems unshakable in the guys that he coached for the Nigerian national basketball team at the Olympics. And Metu might stick there for a while, and it's on him to get better. And I think he has a chance to, and that's probably more so a credit to Brown than it is Metu. But Metu's your best option, obviously, right now. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But like I said, I'm sympathetic to the idea, I guess, that you should go after somebody. Now, I get also that there's not really a lot of options. And the four options that get thrown out are four guys that are arguably, or not arguably, they are past their prime. Three of them shouldn't even be in the league, quite frankly. The one exception is DeMarcus Cousins, because of what DeMarcus Cousins did with the Nuggets last season. And, this was probably more a story last week than it is now. And there's not really anything that's happened on it since. But, we just missed it when we did our podcast last week. What are your thoughts on a potential DeMarcus Cousins Sacramento Kings reunion? Do you think it works? Do you think it's possible? I mean, obviously it feels like it's possible, but what are your thoughts?
So I'm going to preface this with saying I did not like DeMarcus Cousins in Sacramento. I just thought he was a crybaby, wasn't good for the culture. I recognized his talent, but I just didn't like the guy really, and I was happy when he got traded. But like with the hole at the 5 right now, or for the backup 5, I guess. I mean, Cousins isn't a bad option. I mean, Cousins just seems like, like a 60% off like Sabonis in a way.
Yeah.
Like they have good post moves. Like Cousins, you can run the offense through Cousins. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So they kind of, it'd be easy to plug in Cousins into Sabonis's role and like have him do that if you even want to run the bench like that, right? Because Malik Monk is kind of the leader of the bench, and maybe you want to run the offense through him, but you can potentially plug in Cousins into Sabonis's role and it to be be done more effective than I guess Holmes or Metu. So I think it is intriguing, and of course it's a storyline because everyone loved Cousins in Sacramento, except me, I guess. And he has a history here, obviously, but I'm open to the idea. I don't know if it's just I don't know if anything will come from it. It's obviously making headlines, or it was making headlines because of Cousins back to Sac is a headline in itself. So, but I'm not opposed to it if that Metu's our best option at the backup 5. And you made a good point. Like maybe they can develop Mike Brown can develop Metu into a better defensive 5. But until we see that happen, Cousins isn't a bad option. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I would agree 100%, it's like he would give you that option to just be kind of a cheap version carbon copy backup to Sabonis. And I think he would help. I think, Yeah, the Kings played like 3 games against the Nuggets between like February and March last year, like within a span of a few weeks. And I remember watching those games, listening to the Denver commentators, and all I could talk about was like how great Boogie was for the second unit's energy and just like kind of connecting everybody there. And it's like maybe that's obviously not needed because the second unit looks really good, basically with Monk leading the charge, as you've been saying. But it can't be discredited. It couldn't hurt to have another, body in there that is a little bit more effective. And for all the things that he can do, they're pretty decent. Obviously, he's nowhere close to being great. And I still think there would be moments where maybe you want to see Metu out there, which sounds weird to say, but it would fit. But I just don't know that it would happen, just because I feel like one of the people that is kind of endurably bound to the organization and that he owns it, that Cousins didn't really get along with. And I don't think anything's better on that front would be Vivek Ranadive. Now, if Vivek Ranadive is completely out of kind of basketball decisions as it is, or as it were, then maybe that doesn't matter. But I just can't help but think that Vivek's like, no, fuck that guy. Like, no, forget it. I don't know. That's kind of pure conjecture at that point, but it's just like, I think for that reason, it's like, no, I don't know. And I don't know. We're kind of getting to a point where it's like if we're at next week and he's not here, I mean, like, I don't know. Like, again, unless Metu's not getting better, I feel like, don't you think that would have kind of happened already?
Yeah, you would think so, right? I mean, the dude would sign a vet min, right? So it's not like money's an issue. And you can just drop Maneke or Akpala down to the G League, which it seems like Maneke's kind of flip flopping between the G League and the NBA. Whatever's up with that, I don't know. I just thought about that, but you know, like you said, like if it was gonna happen, it would happen, right? Like, what's the holdup at this point? But the only reason this is a headline on top of it, it wasn't like McNair or there was rumors the Kings were interested in another backup center at all. It was just Carmichael Dave tweeted something about maybe bringing back Cousins for the reasons we noted, and Cousins being like, "Yeah, I would love to help Zach back to the playoffs." So I mean,
Exactly.
so that's it. That's why this conversation's here. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
nothing
That
in
is
the front
that's
office.
very important to say because it's kind of just social media generated.
Exactly. But I mean, it brings up a fair point, though. Like we don't have a backup center. Cousins, he could provide a fill for that hole at the moment. But like
I
you said,
think it's the perfect. I think even better than that. My favorite thing to pivot to is like, wouldn't it be better if this team had Damian Jones, who's like hardly playing
dude,
for the Lakers?
I
Just
know, man.
I'm like, maybe
Ah,
just to call up the Lakers and be like, we'll give you
I know. Who could you
Holmes
even
for
give?
Jones. I don't know.
I doubt it. The
I don't
salary
think that
would
would.
not
Yeah,
work.
that wouldn't work money wise.
Could you
But
give a shoot? We don't have any shooters, do we?
you should have kept Merrill.
I do. That's what I was kind of thinking right now. Like, if you keep Merrill, this straight off Damian Jones,
Number one pick in the G League draft, man.
was he?
Yeah. Like,
Oh, that's hilarious.
once he got waived, I guess, because they didn't have any connection to him. There's no designation or whatever in his contract. He entered the draft, I guess.
I
He was
saw
number
he
one
like
pick.
he was on social media the other day, like on the G League's profile, or maybe even the NBA's. I think he like hit like a big shot or something. I don't know. I'm like, it's Sam Merrill. I like Sam Merrill. He's cool.
I liked him too. I thought he was really good, and he impressed a lot of guys in camp. I thought he's kind of another one of those kind of guards that can kind of handle the ball. You can have him kind of run pick and roll a little bit, and he can shoot really well. He's obviously not as athletically gifted or like ball handling wise gifted, but as a backup we're talking about like having similar skill sets. It just seemed like Sam Merrill would have been good for that, but odd man out, unfortunately.
Yeah, there is just no, he's just a shooting guard really, and we already had three of those, so it was just you know, he just wasn't going to make the team, really.
Yeah,
But I liked him. Bring him back and then trade him.
I know.
But I know
Yeah,
Damian Jones, dude. I love Damian Jones. Bring
yeah.
him
Just for
back.
everybody, Merrill's got 4 games under his belt so far this year. In I don't know what team this is.
I think
CLC.
he's on the Cavs. I think he's on the
Oh
Cavs G
yeah,
League team.
Cleveland Charge. He's averaging 19 and a half points a game in four starts. Shooting 40.6% from three.
I did
3.8
not.
assists, 3.5 rebounds. Like, I just love it. I just he did a little bit of everything. He's just
I
nice. He's a good
I
player.
did not expect to be bringing up Sam Merrill's G League stats on this
Yeah,
podcast, but it's kind of nice. Love the Sam Merrill's a cool guy, you know.
yeah, man.
But
Love to Sam Merrill, man.
dude, Sam Merrill, dude, he's the next big thing that's gonna come out of the G League. Saying it here first,
Hey, man. He's gonna be the Steve Young of basketball.
dude. I love that.
um, but yeah, I guess that just um, that kind of moving on here. I think we kind of said what we needed to say about the backup centers there.
And Sam
Um,
Merrill.
yeah. But we kind of mentioned Harrison Barnes at the beginning, and I just feel like this is kind of becoming a weekly thing where we have to do a weekly update on Harrison Barnes. And in the games that he's looked better offensively, where he's contributed, my observation was that it was very like deliberate, and you could see against the Warriors, Keegan Murray was far more involved. Maybe that was deliberate. Maybe he's just in a better headspace at home. He's talked about that. Stats kind of back it up, especially since the terrible thing happened to his grandma in Charlotte. The lone game that he really had that was good before Sunday night was the home game against Cleveland. So he's strung together 2 straight good home games. But in the fact that Murray was playing well, Barnes was again kind of a no-show. And it just feels like Barnes is like the main issue, because the main issue is that he's not, like, you'd like to see him score, 12 to 14 points a game, something in there, maybe a little less, over 10, and continue to get his rebounds. I don't even think he was getting his rebounds last night. I need to pull up the stats, but it's one of those things where it's just like he gets lost in the fold way too easily. And I don't know what the deal is there. People were talking about him getting in a rhythm. Well, again, it felt like when he got in a rhythm, it was deliberate. And it's like, you can't be deliberate. This is a free-flowing offense. And I think one of the things that I can say about Barnes that was good last night was that he hit, I think, 1 or 2 threes. And it's like, that's kind of all you can ask for. Just hit those open threes offensively. I don't know. That's kind of a word salad there on Harrison Barnes. But, like, what have your thoughts been? I mean, like, talking about a weekly update, like, what have you seen from him?
Well, he played really well against the Cavs after having a terrible game against the Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like something. Let me pull up his stats from the Cavs, just so I'm not, saying stuff that's wrong.
Yeah, I
Making
got him here. He
uh,
he
how,
scored 20 points on 6 of 8 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3, and he was 6 of 8 from the free throw line. 9
yeah,
rebounds and 3 assists. Very, very good game.
and that's what I was gonna say. 6 from 8 from the free throw line. I think Barnes is at his best when he's attacking the rim, and he's like a two. He's either shooting a three or he's getting a bucket in the paint. Like, that's his game. But I just don't feel like he's been attacking the paint or having a good shot selection in the paint as of late. Because Barnes can get to the line. He has some good moves that can draw fouls, and he's savvy veteran guy that knows how to draw fouls. But he just doesn't look as aggressive attacking the paint and kind of just throwing up shots. It looks like at times I'm like, that's just not a good shot, dude. Like when he's driving to the basket. Um,
Yeah, he'll do that little like deceleration and just dribble into the abyss.
yeah, exactly. And he was like, the 3 years he's been here, he's like, that was his move. He's really good at that. It looks a little different this year. So just I mean, obviously his 3-point shot's not falling, which is killer, but he's also it just doesn't seem as aggressive. And it seems like the good games he has had so far is the games he was aggressive, getting to the free throw line, and scoring inside. So I want to see Barnes, get a little more aggressive, but maybe you know not being that second option anymore. Maybe that is hurting him. That's what kind of made me think, because like last year when he needed a bucket and Fox wasn't on the floor, or, you gave it to Barnes and he did that move inside, or he would post up, or he would try to get fouled. Like that was Barnes's game, and so maybe kind of putting him down the totem pole on this, like, with, I guess, usage. I guess.
Well, yeah,
Um,
it's like with all the other reads and everything else that works together, where you can really put like Harrison Barnes in isolation.
exactly, but
It's like bottom of the play sheet.
exactly. But he's
And
actually
but to
not
your
bad at
just
those plays.
to your point though, I wanted to add though that
Yeah.
This Warriors game on Sunday, you're talking about free throws, and I would even add in rebounds as being something that he needs to do. He had no attempts from the line and 0 rebounds, 1 of 3 from 3. He has been 4 of his last 10 from 3 in the last 3 games. But other than that, this is nothing. And I do wonder, it's like, can you get him involved somehow in screen action, or is that just so adverse to what he's used to and how he plays?
Yeah, dude. I don't know. I feel like he needs the ball a little more, honestly. Maybe him being a fourth option isn't his thing anymore. Maybe he does need, you know, to ISO sometimes. Hey, he's good in the post too, honestly. Throw
Yeah.
him in the post every now and then. Maybe, I don't know, just build his confidence a little. Maybe that's what's affecting his three ball as well. Maybe he's just like, well, like they're not giving me any ISO plays. Like I gotta shoot this shot. Like this is my chance, and maybe that's affecting his 3-point shot as well. Because that's, he thinks that's all he's gonna get. I don't know. It's weird. I wouldn't think about Harrison Barnes that way, because it seems like a very mature player and man. But I think, I mean, the two things that have changed is his lack of usage, or his decline in usage this year, and the way he's playing. That's really it. Um, I don't know. I could be wrong, but that was something I was thinking the other night. That it seems like when he's having his best games, it's the games he is more aggressive attacking the rim and getting to the line.
Yeah, and it feels like he's allowed to do that in some of these games lately, because again, it felt kind of like, hey, let's get Harrison involved early. And he's had a couple of good first quarters, I think, against Cleveland and Los Angeles. So I don't know. If I'm gonna give Chimezie Metu time, I'm gonna give Harrison Barnes a little bit more time.
Yeah, you have to.
It just seems like, for whatever, like, oh, he looked a little better. It just doesn't seem like it was like all the way. It's like things. It just kind of seems like it's the same issue, I guess. It kind of just seems out of place. I mean, and of course, like if he's, like I said, of his last 10 attempts from 3 over the last 3 games, he's 4 of 10, like shooting 40% from 3 in his last 3 games. That's pretty good. If you could do that throughout the season, that's great. That's fantastic. But it's just like, again, that guy's getting paid a lot of money. You'd like to be able to see better use, better production out of him. If not,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of an interesting question for the front office. It's kind of been the common theme when it comes to Harrison Barnes. It seems like forever now, um, whether or
It's
not.
it's going to be an interesting question, but at the same time, he's your only true small forward on the team, and unless you can get one in return, and if the Kings are playing well, right? If they're playing well going forward this season, and they have a chance at the play-in or the playoffs, and Barnes is still playing poorly, you can really only trade him if you're getting a small forward in return. And I think
Yeah,
that's going to be the issue. I think he's dealt if the Kings just like, okay, like, because it's a contract year. He'll be dealt if the Kings have no like hopes of making the play-in or playoffs. But he's your only option right now. That's what I thought. I didn't think Bazemore was the answer at the 3, but it's kind of hurting cutting that guy, because he was really the only true backup 3 that was on the Kings training camp roster. So, I mean, it seems like he's staying put unless you can get a small forward in return. Because I remember there's like that John Collins talk earlier, but you can't do that now. You don't have a small forward unless you trust Murray or you move Herter to the 4 or 3, and then Monk starts or Davis starts. But that just kind of screws up with your depth at that point. So I think you just have to hope Barnes just pulls it together at some point this season. And he could. It's Harrison Barnes, but he's been very questionable early on this season.
Yeah. It's kind of it's more and more apparent that it's like, oh, it's not like anything's wrong with him. It's just he's not meshing well with the situation, at least at this point. But we'll have to see. I mean, it's early November, I guess. I think we said like a month ago, though, like maybe less than a month, a couple weeks ago, we're like, like Thanksgiving time into November, like if things still aren't working with Barnes, like it's gonna be an issue. They're winning games. They're figuring it out. I mean, they're getting good production out of other guys. It seems like whenever Lyles needs to go in, he's great. Whenever Terrence Davis goes in, he's ready to go. And they're, guys like that and other guys on the bench are just ready to make an impact in other ways. So it's not like, I guess that it's a huge problem right now. I mean, they're winning, but you just like to be able to see more production out of Barnes. And like you said, like getting to the free throw line would be nice to see, but like continuing being that guy on the glass, it was weird that he didn't have any rebounds on Sunday night. Because at the very least, you'd almost expect him to be doing that. He did have 3 assists, but
no, it's a good point. Like, it's kind of Barnes' thing. He usually grabs around 5 rebounds. He has a good game. He can get 8 to 10. So it is weird. Barnes is good at those fundamental things, and if he wants to show that he's worth it or worthy asset or whatever, playing well, those boards are necessary on his part. That's one of the things he does, well. Not great, but he does it, He'll go in for boards. So
yeah,
it is noteworthy that he had 0.
But that's our weekly update on Harrison Barnes. Stay tuned for next week.
Yes, hopefully, hopefully we can say great things and how he scored 45 against the Nets tonight. But we'll find out next week or tonight.
Yeah.
But you got anything else, or what's up?
No, not really. I think that's pretty good. I think that's basically everything I got here.
That's basically everything. Well, the Kings national TV, the first time since before the pandemic. If you remember, their last nationally televised game on TNT or ESPN was the night the NBA shut down. They were supposed to play the Pelicans. I really don't remember their real last one before that. So it's going to be exciting. The Kings have a chance to go over 500 in the win-loss column. They're playing the Nets, KD on TNT. It's going to be an exciting night. I'm definitely looking forward to it. And hopefully, Fox and Sabonis keep doing what they're doing and Harrison Barnes has a better game. And so we can talk good about him next week. But wrap it up, John.
Well, just keep an eye out for those Kings. They're playing good basketball. I think you know that, though.
Well, Tony and John, bringing you Kings Talk presented by Cap City Crown. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, have a good one.